I'm bidding everyone will get dressed up real pretty.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Testing Room, where three of the gaming industry's best video game consultants who have never consulted on a video game bring you new topics each and every week. As always, I'm Alex, a.k.a. The Gozfather.
I'm Christian, a.k.a. Pseudo45.
I'm Preston, a.k.a. Funkadelic Jedi.
Yeah, you are. Welcome, everybody. We have some fun stuff to talk
Testing
about.
Room.
I know, but as always... Did I say it with a country accent? Was
You
it bad?
did, oh yeah.
You flopped it a little,
Oh.
yeah. That's okay. We all know.
That's unfortunate. I didn't notice. I'm gonna hate that when I listen back. But it's perfect because by the time this episode comes out, I'll be heading to West Virginia. So
Yeah.
it'll all work. It'll just get me,
Yeah.
it'll get me right back in there. So let's start things off as we always do. We're gonna head right over to Preston's comment corner.
Yeah. So no new comments this week. So I'm gonna bring up a little piece of discussion for us.
Oh, yeah.
Elden Ring DLC has come out, and there's been a little bit of, I won't say controversy, but talk about its
I'm so
difficult.
I
happy.
think it
I'm
is
so happy
elevated.
you're bringing this out.
I think it has elevated to controversy. I think
Okay,
you were
has
right
it?
the
Okay.
first time, buddy.
All right, so it's been back and forth. I've seen it here and there. People saying that it might be too difficult, and then you got another half of people telling them go fucking get good. But it's kind of up in the air about how people feel about it. It's getting mixed reviews on Steam right now.
You got
but-
review bombed. Yeah.
Yeah, I got
did,
review
which
bombed.
is some horse shit, man.
It's always horseshit when that happens. But yeah, I've been kind of looking into it a little bit today. It seems like they've actually put out a patch that made like the first half just a little bit easier.
They did put out a patch, which is crazy.
People
but
are
that's
jokingly calling it
amazing.
the journalist patch, even though these guys played it and reviewed it before
No, so
the
the-
patch actually came out.
There's a journalist mod out.
Yeah, it's a
on PC
mod. Yeah,
too.
they called
Yeah.
it journalist mod
Oh,
that
really?
somebody did separately.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That tones
it's
it down, I
crazy.
guess.
You take 50% less damage.
Oh, so it's a cheat engine kind of shit.
Yeah.
So the mod is basically putting it back to the base difficulty of regular Elden Ring,
yeah.
and
So-
then letting people play through that. Now, here's the thing. And Alex and I will talk about this during our weeks because it's what we've played, but I'm about at the 70% mark now through this DLC. And I'm very glad that you brought this up, Preston, because
Me too, because I was going to bring it up if you didn't. So thank you.
it is. Here's the disconnect. This Elden Ring. So the gap between like when DLC usually launches for these sort of games is usually never this long. Like
Okay.
for all of the Dark Souls games, the DLC was there relatively close to like after launch. Bloodborne, same thing. Old Hunters came out within the same calendar year. I'm
Would this
pretty
be
sure.
like a year and a half, almost 2 years?
This one was a little bit longer. Yeah, it was a lot. Like everybody kept wondering where the fuck Shadow of the Erdtree was at, basically. Now, the thing is during that time, Elden Ring obviously became massively popular. People loved it. They spent hours upon hours upon hours in that game doing multiple different challenge runs, people beating it with a fucking dance pad, all that shit, right?
I beat it one time, and I think my play time on that game when I downloaded it, logged in, was 133 hours.
Right. So
a lot.
Yeah.
it has gotten solved to the point where people were able to min-max and figure out builds to basically just one-shot everything in the game. Like, no ashes, no co-op, no nothing. Like, literally walk in, press a button, everything dies, and then you move forward, right? Like, that has been solved. And so people then spent all this time getting to those builds, doing the new game plus 5, new game plus 6, getting up to these levels and doing these things, right? The problem is, the devs saw this and knew that no matter what they did, there was nothing that somebody could, like, every boss that they could create, everything that they could do was just going to get smoked by all of these things. So they did something that I think genuinely is a very, very smart idea, which is we have introduced a new leveling system that is specific to the DLC. So that when you spawn in without any of these fragments or any of these things, you will do less damage and you will
And
take
to the big enemy, do no damage.
and you will take way more damage. And you are supposed to use that to then go around, find some of these fragments, find these things, level, and it tells you the second you spawn in. It gives you a freebie. It says, here you go, here's your +1. And it says, you need this. Like, this is a completely separate system that only works in this zone. As soon as you leave, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, change anything back there, and it doesn't give you any benefits back there either. It's just only here. And so many people are like, yeah, blah, 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 whatever. I don't need that shit. I use one-shot mechanics. I don't
I'm
need
a pro
this,
player.
right?
I don't need it.
Well, as they go on, so they just start playing the game. They might find a few here or there, that ones like the kind of easy ones that are on the beaten path. But they spend all this time then going into a boss arena, and they can't fucking wrap their brains around why they're getting smoked all the time. And it's definitely that. Like, there's any time that I have looked at somebody who complains about boss difficulty or whatever, it is always, whenever I look, they are nowhere near recommended the fragment level that they're supposed to be at to be able to do something.
Well, and Bandai even came out and did a tweet and were like, hey guys, here's just a polite reminder to level up your skirt fragments or whatever. As like, we know that people aren't doing this and you're complaining about it. Like, it's
Here's
your
our
fault,
other
not
extra
ours.
hint. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And so, like, it's one of those things where I don't know. That's what it is. And so then, like, as speaking as somebody who has went through and fought, like, I hit my own wall with that. Like, I went through the first two, like, main bosses. Here's the other thing. I saw people raging out about one of the bosses where they were like, it's these giant AoEs that you can't avoid, blah, blah, blah. And then you just jump. And you're like, look, I'm guilty of it all the time. There are so many times when I see a move coming, my first instinct is to roll.
You forget that game has a jump.
Yeah.
The game has a jump, and they plan on you using it. If you don't use it, you're going to get hit by stuff. Like, that's just what it is. So that's number one. But number two, I went through the first two, like, big blockers between the Dancing Lion and Renala, or whatever it is. Renala, it doesn't matter. I went through those two, and I genuinely got out of those fights, and I was like, I don't understand what everybody is bitching about. Like, it is really not that big of a deal. I then get to Mesmer, which is, like, the first, like, fucking no. Like, you will not. It is impossible. You won't do this. And I was like, God, dude, I'm doing, like, no fucking damage. And I was like, he's just one-shotting me. Like, I just don't get it. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. I tried doing the old Mimic Tear trick, being like, all right, fucking do the Mimic Tear thing, get his attention off of me, and let me go do some stuff. Nope, Mimic Tear was getting smoked, and then I got smoked right after, and I was like, dude, if Mimic Tear doesn't work, that was like the ace in the hole back in the day. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And then it hit me as soon as I was sitting at the Grace, and I had like the little flashing light next to the Shadow Tree updates, and I looked down and I said, right, fuck, I completely forgot about these things. When I leveled up, I was at like 3 or 4, and I had enough on me, I just didn't bother pressing the button, to go all the way to 10. So I get to 10, now all of a sudden, I'm taking way less damage, like I'm saying like 70% less damage, and I'm also doing way more damage. I was like, all right, message received,
Yeah.
I get it. And from then on, it has never been an issue again. But it's just like, it's frustrating because I see people complain. It's like, dude, did you really want,
So-
like, in your imaginary world of the person who's review bombing this, like, would it really have been fun for you if your one-shot build. Like, you would have just walked in the DLC, poof, 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 everybody disappears, and you're like, bye, and then you leave. Like, I feel like you would have review bombed it immediately, being like, this DLC is only 2 hours long, fuck this game,
Oh yeah,
it's
they
so
would have been pissed if
stupid.
it was too easy. If they could just
Yeah,
swamp through
dude,
it
like,
and
I
go
just
through it
don't
with their
know, but
max
that's-
build or whatever. Yeah.
But here's my opinion on why the problem is the way it is, and I'm not gonna. We'll talk about like my opinions on the DLC when we get to my week.
Yeah.
But I like the difficulty boost, and
Sure.
I see the problem being this: is that for many people, I would 40-50% of the fan base,
At least.
Elden Ring was their first Souls game.
I think you're gonna hit
I
on
was
how I felt about this. Yeah.
I was lucky that Christian introduced me to the series. To said, if you want to play this, you can play this, but you need to play this other game first. And he got me into Souls through
Bloodborne.
Bloodborne. Thank you. Right, and since then I've played a couple others. Like I've dabbled in Sekiro, which I really, really liked. I just need to finish, and I've played some of the other like Demon Souls and Dark Souls, which I haven't seen. I just need to finish. So like going into this game, I like it, but it was more accessible, and it was more accessible because there was a difficulty scaling issue, which I think is inherent in an open world game. You can't create the same damage checks in the same way that you do in like those linear games because of the way you built Elden Ring.
You know where
and you
they'll
put in
be.
400 and you put in 495 bosses. Like they all just can't be that tough, right? Like it can't be done. So I think because of that, 50% of that fan base being new, if not more, to this game, and Elden Ring is such a moment. It's what streamers took over, and like it just took on its own life. They get to the DLC and they expect the same thing. So they're like, I'm going to get all these views. I'm going to stream this forever. This game was so fun.
I've already leveled up. I'm a pro.
I've already leveled up. And to Christian's exact point, it's no fun if you're one-shotting everything. And that's not what these games are about. Like, all they did
100%.
was these games are known for being unfair, right? Like, we know this. Like, they turned up the difficulty higher. But essentially, if you've played any of these older games, like old school Demon Souls or Dark Souls, you know those games have incredibly hard bosses,
That's
and
why you come
oftentimes
to those games.
and oftentimes just cheat to beat you, like just straight up cheat to beat you, right? And I think that's the problem. So many people playing this don't understand the franchise and only came in. And I'm not like trashing them because of it. I'm not saying it's like, oh, let me get on my soapbox. I've been here forever. 'Cause I too have not been in the genre of games forever, but I think because they don't understand the franchise and came in with the wave that everybody else came in on, they're upset that the difficulty has been turned up. But like that's just this series, and to Christian's point, you're not reading that you need to level up these new fragments, you're not paying attention to the mechanics they're trying to teach you. You're just trying to do it for the views. You're just trying to plow through the bosses, to be the first to finish it, to be the first to get to New Game Plus, to do this new build. And it's like that's not what the developers want. They want you to enjoy and explore. And I'm sorry if that makes you so upset you have to review bomb this game that was like the highest ever rated DLC, and 1 week later it's mixed reviews on Steam. That's insane to me. But that's just people like in this new streamer age that we live in being upset that they can't do stuff for the views.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
So yeah, I was kind of feeling the same way about what you said, Alex. To where it's like, well, maybe like people came into it, they weren't used to these Souls games, they leveled up all the way, so they just assumed that level is going to carry them into the DLC and they're going to fucking wreck it. They went into it being sorely disappointed to find out that they're going to have to kind of do that same leveling, not exactly same leveling, but kind of level up again. But yeah, Miyazaki had an interview with TheGuardian.com. Like it's like the day of, or like it was like right before the DLC released. And they were talking about difficulty in games, you know, about the whole Souls altogether. And he essentially came out saying, if we really wanted the whole world to play the game, we could just crank down the difficulty more and more. He's like, but that wasn't the right approach. Had we taken that approach, I don't think the game would have done what it did, because of the sense of achievement that a players gain from overcoming these hurdles is such a fundamental part of the experience. Turning down the difficulty would strip the game of that joy, which in my eyes would break the game itself. Yeah, that was even before the controversy of like the review bombing and everything like that. That was just like him just saying, this is how I make these games. Like, we could make it easy mode, and I'll talk about my week too, but it's like we could make it easy mode to where like you press a button, put in the story, whatever you want to do, and then you just smooth sailing. He's like, but that's not the games he wants to make. That's not the games like he puts forward. And the whole point of these games is to have that difficulty to where it's like, yes, you're beating yourself against this wall for 45 minutes, but it's doable. So if you try and you actually put forth the effort, there's a level of satisfaction that people get, and there's like some dopamine hit, whatever chemical goes off in your brain. Probably the same thing for people who love horror games, is to where like they have this enjoyment that hits their brain that I don't also get, to where it's like, good for you, have fun with that. That's not my thing, kind of deal. So,
Yeah.
I think there's. I think
Really
people
quick.
I think yeah.
Before we move off that interview, I just want to say one thing. Miyazaki also says in that interview that he still doesn't believe that he has made his perfect
game.
yet
No,
of
sure.
like a thing. And
An artist.
I disagree because he's made Bloodborne.
Yeah,
That's
he can
it.
make. Yeah, honestly, the reason I'll tell you why he hasn't made it, Christian, is because there's no 60 frame PC port of
Yeah,
Bloodborne.
I know.
But once that comes out, then it'll be the perfect game.
Yeah.
So, I think people have short memories too, right? But again,
Sure.
because Elden Ring was such a moment and so many people played it, you could come in and you could meta and so on. But you forget like that the dragonfly looking boss that had like the meteor tails, the really celestial one that everybody loved. You fight it in a boss fight and you're like, okay, whatever, it's tough, it's fun. Then all of a sudden you go into like Sophria Ruins and other stuff and you fight as a normal enemy and you forget how bullshit that enemy is. It snipes you with rocks when you're behind walls from miles away, right? Like it's such horse shit. It doesn't make any sense. But you get better, you overcome it, you level higher, you find out the meta, and so many people came in after watching streamers with the meta plan, so those things were easier. But I think there's a short memory that people forget. Like, you struggled at first too over here. It's part of the game.
And,
like, you
and
gotta
don't
struggle.
forget,
better.
dude, people complained during base game. Like, you guys remember when Elden Ring first came out, your boy went hard. I
Yeah.
platinumed it like maybe a week after. Like, I was really, it was too much. I went after it though. And then at post me beating it, we had patch after patch after patch of deflating difficulty for all these different bosses because people complained about them and blah 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 blah. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, man, I think it's insane that we've gotten to the point now where, like before, when Elden Ring first, nobody did review bombs, or it was just people complained and complained and complained on social media, and then they got Radon nerfed and Millennia nerfed and all sorts of other nerfs that happened, and different buffs and all this other stuff. Whereas now people are like, oh, well, I'll just review bomb it, and that'll get them to change it. Like they'll fix the game once I review bomb it, and they'll nerf this boss into the ground so that I can one shot it and move on and whatever. It's just like, dude, I don't.
I'll step on my soapbox for this. This is a today internet culture problem.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
If these kids, and I know I'm a successful saying this, if these kids didn't have an option to review bomb to get things easier, right? Back in the day, had to play like Aladdin or Lion King. There's no
Yeah.
coach there. You
No.
either get good or you just don't. You have broken games, and you just
I only played the
you
first
have broken
few levels
games,
of Lion
and you
King
just don't play. Yeah,
because I couldn't fucking beat it, so I
No,
kept running it
it's
because I like
unbeatable.
Lion King, but fucking
unbeatable,
I
right?
sucked it up.
Just
Like
do
I just
it.
can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, well, the problem is those games are a little bit because they were physically made to be
I
unbeatable,
know.
so they'd eat your quarters. But
Right.
yes,
No,
yeah.
Lion King's different. Yeah.
Christian, so I did the DLC before Christian because of what I'm sure he'll talk about. He took him longer to get to the DLC for reasons.
Yeah,
anyway,
we'll talk about the real problem is how you have to fuck. Whatever.
So he heard me fighting the first boss, and the first boss I fought was just a little mausoleum boss, right? Like there's a billion of these things scattered throughout the world, and I went into this DLC at level essentially 200. It's like 198, which is very high. I mean, the highest I don't know if it caps at 999 or if it goes higher.
It caps at 999.
Yeah, you go. Most people don't like. Most people probably beat the base game around like 70s, 80s. Like you could absolutely do that, but I am a scaredy cat, so I go in super powerful to these games. I'm a mage build, and I have this one move like Azure Comet, and I would like go into a boss. I'd pop on Mimic Tier, and he would draw the damage, and I would just Azure Comet this thing, and like. Or Comet Azure, and it would just shoot a laser beam, and you just see it. It wouldn't one-shot things, but it would just eat chunks of damage. So I get into this not even real, like, it has a boss bar, but it's not even a real boss.
The
And I
mini
find a
boss,
mausoleum, and I walk in there, I'm like, let's go, fam, 200. Boom! Slam my staff down. It hits him one little chunk, like, barely, like, just barely, like, beep. And then he just rolls out of the way and pulls out an automatic little crossbows, do, and just killed me. And I was like, okay, DLC, I
Yep.
see you.
Yeah.
I see how this is gonna go. And it took me, I mean, Christian, that was before I leveled up anything. I had one of those little fragments that I ended up spending, but before I leveled any of those up, it took me 9, 10, 11 tries to beat just a little nothing.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like the DLC. I like the difficulty scale. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up. I saw that article too.
Well, it's
Yeah.
great. I've been watching it. It's fun.
It annoyed me.
Yeah,
Cool. All right. Well, I'll kick things off if you don't care for the week.
sure.
I did some dabbling this week.
Yeah, that'll do you.
Yeah, traveling for work, had some stuff to do, so I'm not going to go too far into the Final Fantasy XIV. I got a lot of my characters up, my crafters and other things. Very
By the
happy
time
about
you
it.
hear this, Alex and I will be balls deep in Dawn Trail. Don't talk to us.
Sure.
Yeah, nothing.
If you do, you better talk
yeah.
about 14.
Yep, that's it. So I'm excited for Dawn Trail, but beyond that, I dabbled. So let's see. I played a couple hours of Pokemon, and I played a couple hours of Animal Crossing.
Preston and I both same direction, same
Sorry,
pace.
sorry. I played Like a Dragon, but
Okay, fair
I got
okay.
I got stuck into the Sujimon, just
Yeah,
collecting
the
their Pokemon,
Pokemon,
and then,
yes.
dude, the
Sujimon
last three play sessions, I've done nothing but play on that stupid island for no reason.
Donko Island's so good.
To the point where I was like, literally, I was playing earlier, and I was like, oh my god, I've been here like 8 hours. Like, what am I doing? I'm on like my second week, and I'm just crafting stuff, and I'm like, this isn't even.
It's
I'm
Animal
playing a
Crossing,
different
dude.
game. That's what I mean.
It's
Like, I'm
Animal
not even
Crossing.
playing my game anymore. I'm just playing a different game.
Yeah.
So the server is down for 2 days. I've taken the time to play other things. So I've been playing Like a Dragon. It continues to be amazing. I don't know what to say about it. I'm in Act 5, which is about halfway, maybe just barely less. And I think I've played that game for nearly 50 hours.
Yeah. You've got so much more ahead of you, dude.
I know. I also continued to play Hellblade. So
Not
Senua-
finished with that one
Finished
yet?
that yet.
Senua
Yeah.
Saga.
Dude,
again,
Preston and
right
me
here,
today.
right here.
Jesus, man.
I haven't been home, right? So I've had the Steam Deck. I've been traveling for work, so
I thought you had Game Pass stuff on your Steam Deck.
I do, but I still think about doing it.
I'm not
All the time.
That kind of game was supposed to be. Like
and that game's
spectacle.
not on cloud. You have to download it, so I couldn't play it.
Okay.
I
Whatever,
couldn't play it.
Microsoft.
Yeah, so I couldn't play it on Steam Deck anyway. So it's on my PC. I did play it again today. There are things I absolutely love about this game. One being the music, which they just fucking kill. Like, the music is so good. The graphics are so good. The story, I'm still torn on. It is interesting what they do, and I want to talk to you guys about it. And I don't think this won't be a spoiler because you've seen it, right, in the trailer. You know there's the part in the cave where they're fighting the big giant, right? Like, that was in the
Yeah.
trailer.
Mhm.
I've made it to that part. So in the first game, the bosses you fight are Senua's vision of real people, right? Like, but she is seeing them as deities or gods of that religion. I forget if she's like Nordic or Woad or whatever she is, but like, she sees them as deities of that religion. But then, like, sometimes you'll kill somebody and like they're just, or people, right? It is what it is. This game is interesting. That's not what these bosses are. Like, that giant is a boss, but that giant, I can't. Here's where I'm struggling, and it's not really a spoiler because I don't know the answer to it either. I don't know if these giants are real or fake, because other people are fighting them
Also
sometimes, kind of in the cave they do, but the first giant I fought they didn't, and they are actually physical representations, from what I've gathered, of weather events or natural disasters. So, like, the one in the cave, they give a name to it, but they say, like, this giant controls the weather and is sinking all of these ships off of the coast, and because of what it's doing, it's bringing in all these terrible storms. Now, I haven't beaten it yet. That's where I stopped, so I don't know what's going to happen. But in the other one that you fight, the boss, it's almost like the physical representation of a volcano. And when you defeat it, there's no longer the threat of a volcano in this area. So, and like I beat that one alone, and it wasn't like, it didn't turn into a person when I beat it, right? So it's weird. Like, I like it, but I'm also very confused of what it's supposed to be doing, because in the first one, you very much were fighting people. 100% you were very much fighting people. But these bosses almost seem to be physical representations of natural disasters. And, like, giants also don't exist in this world. So it's a little confusing. I'm still holding my reservations of an actual score till I see how the ending hits. But the music is good, the graphics are great. It is still a walking sim between the set pieces, but luckily we're late enough in the game where it's just like a lot of set piece after set piece after set piece after set piece. The only other thing I'm struggling with is I can't see a big bad coming. Like, most games build, you have many bosses that build to a big boss. Like, these couple of giants that I've fought are independent of each other, right? Like, and I don't see what controlling factor would be the puppet master of these things that I'm trying to get to. Like, my story is picking up right from the last game. I'm trying to rescue my people from being enslaved. That's what happened at the end of the last game. They got captured while I was away, and now I'm trying to get it back. So I don't know. It has a potential to end really well. It has a potential to end very flat. So I'm still reserving my stuff, but I'll have it beat tomorrow. You know, since the downtime on the server is still there, that's the goal, is to have a game beat tomorrow. And I think I'm close. I'm like 6 hours, and I think it's on like 8, so I shouldn't be far. And then I played Elden Ring, and I played much less of it than Christian, which is why I wanted to go first. I'm only about 15% of the way through it, just because of the time that I had to play it and then left. So far, for me, I really enjoy it. It is equally frustrating as it always is. There's some cheat bullshit that there's always been. I'm trying to think of the most... I've seen some ridiculous videos. I'm trying to think of the most ridiculous thing that happened to me. 2 things that I can think of. The first time I encountered the enemies that, if you've been watching videos, you've probably seen, which are these just like little... almost like the Final Fantasy XIV dancers, right? They have the little, like, circular blades, and they're just like ninjas.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And they just don't stop moving. Like,
it's the whole thing with them.
The first time I encountered one, I was just like, I was running from other stuff because I was like, I don't feel like fighting them. I just want to get to that Grace over there. Like, I've gone through here once, I'm not going through here again, so I'm just running, right? And I run up a spiral staircase, and I get to the top, and all of a sudden this thing jumps out. It's like, what? And it's like, what just happened to me? Like, I don't know what just happened. And then there was another one in that same area where I was running across the rooftops, and I'm fighting these birds, and as a magic user, these birds have been totally fine. I just pop them from distance. But I didn't know one saw me, so I'm like fighting this one in front of me, and all of a sudden out of nowhere I get hit from behind and just knocked off a freaking roof. And I was like, okay. All right, video game. I see you. So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
yeah, very much. The downside to the DLC for me so far is I think it's becoming very quickly apparent that there is a stat and build reset coming for me. I don't think my gravity build is as viable in this new set. It's just because everything that I've seen so far in the early game, even the bosses, because I made it to the dancing lion, and I went in the door and then had to help Christian and got off this last thing I played. But everything is so fast that I don't have the time to cast stuff. And that was even with the little boss in the mausoleum, the little mini guy, right? Like, he would close in on me so quickly, and the whole fight was close quarters, that I had to drag it out, because they would be like, roll, wait for an opening, cast 1 or 2 spells, and then go. And I don't think it's viable. So I believe the next time I get on, it's going to be a new build.
I can solve that for you. It's not viable.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people in chats talking about how Magic is not really the way to go for the DLC.
Yeah.
So here's as I've seen people do magic builds that have been working. The problem is it's like one of the ones I sent you, Alex, like the dark.
It needs to be sword based. It can't be wand based.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
You have to be a tankier person that is able then to also still do like you can do certain spells. Like I've seen people do like a lot of frost magic that's been working wonders for people and getting frostbite to pop off, and you know the Darkmoon Greatsword, that stuff, like all that things. And there's newer weapons that you can get throughout there that are also int scaling weapons that can do cool things. But you just got to be. It's
gravity magic and stuff that I'm doing is not viable. So that'll be changing, and it's okay. I'm fine with it. But as a whole, like I'm actually enjoying the DLC. The one thing this game does better, this franchise I think does better than almost any other game out there, is they say this is our world, and when it comes to just like skyboxes and scenery and world building from the environment, I don't know that there's anybody better. Like it is just incredible and beautiful to run around, equally as frustrating as the game is to play. So yeah, that's what I played. I played a lot of things. I've dabbled. Sinnoh will be done soon. Dawn Trail launches soon. I'm gonna play as soon as I beat Sinnoh tomorrow. The rest of the 24 hours until early access is going to be Elden Ring.
Oh, there you go.
And then when early access pops off, like
that's it.
Game over.
That's it. Yeah, I'll come back to a lot of these games in August, maybe. I don't know.
My God, who knows, man?
So that's my week.
Yeah. So I'll just take it from there. So I've only played one thing. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I shelved Eiyuden Chronicle. I talked to you guys both about this separately, but I never talked about it on here. Shelved Eiyuden Chronicle. There was a couple other issues that I ran into after the first act, and I was just like, man, it's not all the way there. I was like, and I'm kind of, I was like, this game needed some more time in the oven. As I'm saying that, I look over at the Steam page, and they had just released their roadmap, and it's got like, I don't know, 5 patches, and then they're all free, and then there's 2 giant story updates that happen towards the end of it too, and that goes all the way into like October. And
So
I
it's
was
not
like,
fully released.
and I was like, okay, well the story stuff is just add-ons, but the patches that go all the way up until August are like adding quality of life features that so like literally the day that I decided to shelve it, which was 2 days before the Erdtree DLC, but like literally it comes out, I look, and it had fixed one of the problems that I had with one of it doesn't matter, but one of like the rune mechanics essentially that they do. And it fixes one of those things, and I was like, okay, that's all I needed to see. Like I will come back to this game after the patches are released. I think the biggest thing that happened, this is just my opinion, I have no idea, they have not said, nobody has said. I personally feel like obviously this game's biggest claim to fame is that the creator of Suikoden was the one who, was the head of this game. Mm-hmm. He unfortunately passed away in the middle of this game's development and is no longer with us. And I legitimately think that was probably what caused them to potentially ship the game early, or had pressure from publishers, whatever the case may be, right? And it's clear that game just needed more time in the oven, and it's clear because they have these. You don't like unless you are grinding these people into the dust. That roadmap didn't come out of nowhere. Like this was things that they.
So you think they noticed the stuff earlier on and had it planned, and we're like, we still need to ship it, so we'll fix it in post.
Definitely. And I think that maybe the plan before he passed away was like, no, we'll just delay it again. I don't care. Like, what are you gonna do? Tell me no? Between me and Sakaguchi, like the JRPG is basically like we created it, so I don't want to fucking hear about it from people. But with him not at the helm anymore, I feel like it's probably easier for that publisher to put pressure. And again, I have no idea if that's the case. I'm just pure speculation, but that's how it feels. So I shelved that. I'm going to let that, spend some more time in the oven. I'm gonna come back to it once it's finished, more or less. But so that obviously led me into playing the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and I have just been after it. So like I said, I'm at the 70% mark now. I have most of the map.
Go ahead and tell them what you had to do to play the DLC.
Yeah,
because it was not as
here's
simple.
The thing, man. If you want to know like the real story about what makes this game frustrating, or like something that somebody could have complained about in a review, is that the only way you get to this DLC is by having beaten a completely optional boss.
Which you beat.
I did beat once before, yes, but then I started a new game plus. And there's just no way to get back to that thing. So you have to play through, and this is no bullshit, you have to play through, even with me taking like the quick route, 50% of this game. I had to beat it halfway through again, just to get to the point of being able to beat it.
Now, he didn't have to re-level, which was nice, right? But yes.
Yeah, I walked through a lot of these people, but it's still like everybody's playing the DLC, like sending photos of it. And I'm over here fucking fighting General Radahn, just being like, God damn it! Like, I just am like, why am I have to do this? And again, like I said, it makes you go up to Moog, who then, and I even call the way back in the day when Mikola's little fucking scrawny hand falls out of that weird cocoon egg. And I was like, yeah, that's the DLC. 100% that's going to be the DLC. But you still have to get all the way to that point, and it's like a completely optional boss that there are players in that game who did not see that boss. Or by they said I mean they didn't play it.
They said more than 70% of players had not beaten Moog.
So there you go. Like, that's just where it's at. And so you have to go through him to even get to the DLC. And to Alex's point, there are people who bought the DLC who never played it, never played him like that boss.
And didn't know what they had to do to unlock it.
Yeah. And just feel like, I guess I'll just deal with that when I get there or whatever. It's just so ridiculous. That's the true ridiculous thing that they did for this DLC. But yeah, no, so I've been playing through it. I have, like I said, I'm about probably 65-70% mark. I have...
How many hours do you think you put in to get there?
Probably 20 right now.
That's not terrible.
25.
I saw they said that like they added 77 new bosses. Now, to be fair, there's only like 4 main story bosses, and I think 10 of the ones that you get like the ashes or whatever from. The remembrances. So there's not that many like real bosses, but yeah, apparently they added a ton of just shit.
So this is my main thing. Obviously, the game is really new, and I'm not going to spoil anything. The only thing that I'll say is that there is one boss that I beat today that I genuinely feel like is probably the worst boss they've ever designed, which is this boss named Gaius. Preston, I don't know if you've seen it in some of the streams that you've been watching.
Difficulty?
You have to describe him to me, yeah.
He rides a big pig.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it the worst designed boss in difficulty, or just like I don't like?
It's not so much difficult. So I'll tell you what it is. There's a boss that is similar to this one in a game called Sekiro.
Oh.
And in Sekiro, you have a lot of different tools at your at your disposal to be able to solve a lot of the more ridiculous parts of that fight, like that could be like a little bit more annoying. You don't have some of those in Elden Ring, and so like this thing has like a giant hitbox that sometimes, like, even if you were the person who's like, I'm a stone wall like my strength and endurance are the only things I've leveled up along with my health. I have a thumbprint shield and a big fucking whatever. I'm immovable. Like, nobody can hit me.
So essentially the way that I beat the base game.
Sure, right, yeah. So, but then what ends up happening is that this boss has like a thing that, like, its hitbox will sort of can wrap around in certain ways on accident and clip you, hit you, knock you over, and then you just get juggled. or like it's just very. I finished it. I beat it today, and I got done, and I was like, this is the only time that I was not having fun. And I think that it's clearly meant to be something that you fight potentially on horseback, but your horse takes so much goddamn damage that you just get knocked off of it, so you can't do that. It was a whole thing. Outside of that one, every boss has been really fun to learn, get the mechanics down. When you finish it, it feels good. I really like the designs. Similarly, with me thinking that they had made the most annoying thing they've ever done, it has also been, I found, one of the coolest zones they've ever done, which is
Talking about the madness area.
no, it's the new place where you can. I'm not going to spoil anything. The new place where you can buy dragon power-ups.
Okay.
That's all I want to say, because I don't want to. People can feel free to look it up if they don't care about spoilers. But it's very new, and I don't want to deal with, or I don't want to, spoil it for anybody. But that zone is one of the sickest fucking things they've ever done. Like, the art team went off. Either way, it's been really fun. Yeah, I have a 48-hour timer left to get through the rest of it. So there's that.
I will definitely be beating it later in the year. There's no way I will do anything in 24 hours.
There's two things that I want to bring up that I thought were interesting choices, both at the benefit and maybe somebody's detriment. I don't know. I think that it is very bold of this game to release this DLC and it have no achievements or trophies attached to it.
Huh.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yep. There's just no, like I didn't
Oh,
notice
yeah.
it.
I didn't get one.
I didn't notice it until
boss.
after I beat Mesmer, and I was like, "Hey, nothing happened." Like I was like, I didn't hear like the ding on my PlayStation, nothing. I looked and I was like, "Oh, there's no
So-
trophies or achievements."
How did Sony allow that?
So here's the thing.
Sony's
I've been
aware-
wondering
yeah,
this.
Sony has not cared about putting trophies in some games, period, anyways.
Yeah, and I think that for DLC specifically, they are cool with just letting it be up to the developer. But it's the first time that FromSoft has ever done it.
Yeah,
And
it's the old hunters and other stuff.
Everything
definitely
did.
had- yeah.
Everything did. So it's so weird that they decided not to do it for this one. I don't know what the reasoning could have potentially been, but find it very interesting, and I hope somebody asks Miyazaki and he answers, because I just want to know. I think it's an interesting decision. The other thing they've done from a design perspective...
I
sorry, go ahead.
was just going to say, I hope that was just a conscious decision that a lot of people haven't noticed, and maybe it's encouraged... instead of speedrunning, it's encouraged people to actually explore and do other stuff, right?
I've seen people say, there's people who complained, being like, I missed the gratification or whatever.
Sure.
And I mean, Alex, you were one.
Let me talk to them. I'll start a support group for all of us.
Yeah. But they there was a lot of people that I saw saying to these people like, hey, so it's okay to just play a game and enjoy it. You don't have to. It doesn't need achievements tied to it. Like, it's okay. Like, and I saw people saying that over and over again. And I was like, oh, nature is healing. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Either way, the other thing they did from a design point is everybody knows, if you listen to our Game of the Year episode back when Elden Ring came out, my problems with the game. I also feel fucking completely vindicated, because every single review for the Shadow of the Erdtree has been like, one of the problems with the base game, even though the same outlets all gave it perfect scores.
10 out of 10.
Everyone's like,
Yeah.
they're like, one of the problems with the base game is how bloated it can feel and how much repeated content there is, and how you could really cut away like 70% of the game and it would be a better game for it. And that's what Shadow of the Erdtree does, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, interesting. Either way, so that's been my main thing that I've loved about this DLC experience so far, is that it is just mostly, there is some exceptions already that have, I just was like, why? Like, so I've seen, there's a new type of dragon that has a new breath attack, and I have seen 5.
Ooh,
and I'm like, I get it. You could do anything else. Like, and I kill them all, and it's fine, but it's just like, maybe just do a different drag. Maybe bring back another dragon that has a different breath attack. Like you could just do any of the other ones that you create. You could do another decay one, a fire one, whatever. Give it a different name. I would at least feel differently about it. But it is literally the same nondescript, no named dragon that shows up. Like it's just 4 of them, and I'm like, I fucking get it. And but other than that, there has been much less repeated shit. This map is a lot smaller. It is not the size they said it was. They were like, "Oh, it's the size of Limgrave." Yeah, my ass.
Yeah,
it
it's
is
much
a lot
bigger
bigger
than
than that.
Yeah.
And it's like 3. It's like Limgrave and like that southern continent part of it. It is like the southern continent part of it, like, but then like stacked on top of each other like 3 or 4 times. And so, like, it's like very vertical, and there's a lot of lower stuff to it as well. That being said, there is almost like no repeated content to it whatsoever, and it just makes it so that every single, like, you're hitting a new zone, and you're like, this looks different than the thing that I was in before. And also, there's new enemies now, and there's new things going on, and there's a new boss, and there's no, like, it's just. It's been nice, even in some of the like little micro dungeons that you find, and that this game does not have it. So far, I've only found like 5, and by this point in the base game, I would have found like 400.
Yeah. A lot.
But I have only seen every single boss in there, even though they have been sort of generic mini bosses like the Mausoleum one that Alex was talking about. They've all been at least different, and they've played differently, which is. It's just been refreshing and nice to be like, cool, all right, we're basically getting Elden Ring but with none of the fat. It's all trimmed off, which makes for a better experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously we played the game that we're here to talk about today, and 14 is it's like somebody running down the street ready to tackle me, and I see this person coming, and there's nothing I can do about it, but they're really far, and so I'm like, I have plenty of time to prepare. But every time I look over, I'm like, they're getting a lot closer.
Bro,
fast.
I looked this morning, and I was like, what time do the servers come up? And they were like, 2 a.m. Pacific time, which would be like 5 a.m. my time. I was like, well, I do wake up at like 7 already. So, like, Not great. Not great.
Yep. Yeah, so, like I said, by the time you hear this, it'll already be too late for Alex and I. But,
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I do in my week. So I'm hoping to get the DLC finished by then. But if I don't, then, I'll get to it later. And also, if I don't, then, no one will ever know because there's no way to check me on it.
Going anywhere. Let it yawn. Sorry. Yeah. My week, I played a little bit of Diablo 4 with Christian. We got a day in.
Yes, we did actually. There's that, but also before you get into the games you played, you pulled off some magic.
Oh yes, the Steam Deck has been fixed. So going back and forth with Steam support, they're very nice people. First couple messages were pretty much what I found online, so you just go through that just to make sure.
Can I ask, did you just go to Powered On one day and it just didn't come on? Is that what happened?
He'll get there.
Yes. So I think what happened was it completely ran out of battery power. I plugged it in, let it pull through. Maybe something was happening in the background when it fully powered off, and then it didn't like that. So therefore, it decided it was not going to put anything on display. It wasn't going to boot up the OS or anything like that. Press the button, you hear the little blank chime. You kind of feel the haptics working on the thumb pads for the mouse for a couple seconds, and then it just stops. You get to plug it into that little hub over there. All of a sudden, I got a display on the monitors. You heard the intro videos, everything like that went off just fine. Talked to Steam support after doing a bunch of research online about press these buttons, press that buttons to get into BIOS, all that kind of nonsense. Take it out of this, it's like a battery safety type of deal to where it like doesn't allow the power button to work, and then maybe you can get it to work that way. None of that stuff worked for me, so I sent out the message to Steam support. They got back to me, pretty much gave me kind of most of the same stuff that I've seen, but I'm like, okay, let me just do it one more time just in case I missed like one button or how many seconds you're supposed to hold it down. Went through all that, same thing. A couple messages later, they finally get to a point where like, okay, you can see it on the dock. All right, well, what version of BIOS are you running? I'm like, oh, this version. I'm like, okay, because they had like a if this number, do these things. If it's below this number, let us know. And it was below that number. So they're like, okay, go in developer mode, turn like the updates to this setting, and for those of you who feel like you need to know, it's like there's like a main setting for the updates, and make sure to restart it, turn it back on, let us know what number your BIOS is at that point. Like make sure it's here or above. Pretty much just make sure it's this one, because I guess it was like the most recent one. I restarted it. It was still on the old BIOS. So I'm waiting for them to respond to the message. I've already shut it off at this point. Like, hey, now is it this one or is it this one with the letter B in it? I'm like, well, pretty sure I just saw what I saw, but like, let me just turn it back on. Let me check real quick. Turn it back on. It's actually at the BIOS number that they wanted me to be at. Like, okay, actually I turned it back on. It is at this BIOS number. So let me follow the steps that you guys had previously. Follow those steps. And then tried unplugging it and working. It didn't work. I'm like, well, fuck. Like, all right, well, plugged it back in, check the BIOS. I'm like, okay, the BIOS stayed. As I'm doing that night, they send me another message. Like, okay, they're like, well, try this. I go to my, where it's in the dock. I unplug it, and as I'm plugging it, I see the backlight come on. I'm like, oh, that's new stuff. All right, well, let's just try to restart the whole system altogether. Restart it, popped up just fine. But yeah, I had to reset it all together, had to go in developer mode, like all this kind of crazy shit. And finally, something just gave it that little push, gave it that little kick to get it out of whatever funk it was in, and display works just fine after that. So
That's all that matters.
it's a big to-do. And hey, man, once you finally get the Steam Deck and you lose it, you get pretty sad when you're sitting there on that couch watching some shit on YouTube. And you're like, man, I wish I had my Steam Deck. I could just turn it on real quick, play a little bit of this, play a little bit of that. And Nine
Well, I
Souls.
don't know what I would do if that happened to me
Yeah.
when I was traveling. I have no idea.
And that's where I want to play Nine Souls. Like, it's a great portable handheld game. I could play it on my PC. I did for like an hour one day. I'm like, I just want to play this on my fucking deck. I'm like, okay, we'll put it away. We'll get to it when we get to it. So, that being said, played some Diablo 4 with Christian.
Yes.
We went through it some more. I'm well over 50 now. He is well over 50 as well. And now we're just kind of going through and getting new levels, new equipment, filling up
We
our
did our
Paragon.
first Nightmare Dungeon.
Did our first Nightmare Dungeon, which wasn't as bad, but we found out that you can only start off at Tier 1 Nightmare, and then you have to go to
keep it
Tier
going,
2,
yeah.
and then go to Tier 3, so we didn't have too bad of a time, though. So I'm curious to see when we'll start hitting that wall, because I
No,
want to see
dude,
that wall.
the boss, Preston and I are doing damage to the point where like the boss in the Nightmare Dungeon, we walked up and it like spawned in. We both pressed a single button and then his whole health bar disappeared.
Amazing.
And we were like, yeah. And
It's Tier
Preston
1
and I
stuff that we're destroying.
Yeah, and we kept talking about it while we were doing it, which was like, man, it's like we're having fun, especially as fans of Diablo. Like we are having tons of fun now, but we just keep thinking about like, man, this is how this game should have launched.
Yeah.
Like
The loot system is much better. The leveling is better. And then like we were playing
Everything.
like everything to level up to like, what was it, like 50 or whatever we got to get to that dungeon.
50, yep. The capstone
We were
one.
playing all in Tier 1. Like, okay, we're not going to move up to Tier 2 or whatever to start off with. We're just going to do Tier 1, just get it over with and go through it. And then we moved to World Tier 3 next.
Yep.
We went up to 2?
3 of 4.
So
yeah.
we were doing Hell Tides, and there's like the new thing that spawns in. It's like a nice little area we can level up, get a whole bunch of cool shit. So we were doing those, and we were flying through those in Tier 1. Like, we were doing a fantastic job. There's like a main, not boss, I guess, if you will. It's a boss of those Hell Tides to where like you put down 3 of the hearts, it spawns in the boss egg, and then you fight minions, and then after a while the boss pops out and does her thing. We were like destroying it. Like, that would pop up, and like there's like 4 of us who have all been like sitting here all day doing this anyways. So it's like, okay, as soon as she pops out of that egg, you just saw that health just fucking fly down. Now in Tier 3, not the case. And not to mention, like, there's environmental effects that we didn't even give a shit about in Tier 1 because they weren't doing dick to us. Now, you're fighting the boss and like a lava comet or whatever the fuck it was supposed to be like comes down and hits
Yeah.
you. Dude, I was getting smoked and like, okay, because the boss hits me and I'm standing in this little tiny AoE area to where like this like volcanic rock hits me and I'm just dead. To be fair, I'm necromancer, so I don't got a whole lot of, armor to kind of keep me at bay from like getting the hits, but I was falling down every once in a while. But after that, it's like, okay, let's pay attention to what's happening on the ground, get out of those area effects sections, we'll be just fine. But I had a great time with it. Unlocking really cool shit. Got some sword that fucking glows. I'm like, cool. It's very much like a lightsaber. I love it. So I will be keeping that cosmetic, that little mog, if you will, hanging around for quite a while.
That's not even the coolest thing you have, though. The coolest thing you have is that fucking new chess piece.
Oh, yeah, chest piece that just straight up has like a red crystal shard sticking out of it, like I got stabbed and shit.
Like he's like stabbed
That's
through
pretty
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to do some effect to where it's like, this effect normally is not good for you and a boss will do it to you, but you'll have this effect now and actually it'll help you with this chess piece. So this is what this effect does now for you. And it was very, very cool. I can't remember what it does, but it was very dope looking. But yeah, Diablo 4 is good. They got it on a great path. We saw in our league, like as soon as like the DLC popped up, I'm like, I'm gonna try to bid for that one because the way this game is now, I guarantee when the DLC pops off, it's gonna get very good ratings. So we'll see what happens when that happens. I think that's in October, I think. October's gonna be
Yeah.
The
the big
trailer
one
for
for
that
me.
DLC looks cool too.
Yeah. The
I
new
mean,
class
if
looks
they
cool.
nail the mechanics and they're bringing back some stuff with Mephisto and stuff from 2 that people like in the area, I don't see why it wouldn't be a banger.
Oh,
as
yeah.
long as they don't change anything up again.
And
Yeah,
a
it's
brand new
really just
class
don't
that hasn't
fuck
been
it
in
up.
Diablo yet. Things like a Beastmaster or something like that is what they're calling it. So
Yeah, something
I'm
like it was
excited to
crazy.
see what that one's
Yeah.
about. But yeah, me and Christian were talking. We're like, this is the highest level character we got. When the DLC drops, we're probably going to be using this character, even though it's in the Eternal Realm. Like, we'll probably start this off just to destroy the fucking DLC.
Yeah, unless there's like some reason that you would.
Outside of me wanting to do the new class, no, I can't think of anything, but we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. Outside of that, since the Steam Deck is working again, I played a little bit more Rapids of Steel one night. Just had like an extra hour and a half or so. I'm like, okay, let's just toss it on YouTube, put some Street Fighter, some StarCraft on the background, and I just wanted to play a little bit more of it. Because I didn't get to play too much of it. Like the zeitgeist of our friend group, it lasted a whole like weekend to a week of people like really getting into that, and then just everyone kind of dropped off. And I didn't get to play a whole bunch, so went through a bunch of classes, kind of got towards one of those first bosses, got my shit pushed in, but it's Final Fantasy
game's
raids
great.
with area effects fucking galore and like teleportations they can put you in to like you got like your character, a line comes off your character, it shows a dot and it has like a countdown to where that's where you're going to teleport here in 5 seconds. So figure out what's going on with the area attacks and like what's going to be coming at you. Make sure that dot's in a good spot, 'cause if it's not, you're getting hit. But yeah, I've had a great time with that game. It's a nice little kind of time waster if I just want to jump in for like a half an hour or so. My runs usually right now with just the getting to the first boss last me probably around like 20 minutes. So it's a lot of fun. It's very cute. It's very, very fun. And yeah, it's a very good game.
Yeah, honestly, man, if the Elden Ring DLC wasn't out, that's all I would have been playing right now.
Really. Yeah, no,
I
it's
really
fun.
love. I think that game is incredible. It's
Yeah.
I already think it's going to be. It will have a spot on my list at the end of the year. It is
Yeah.
a incredible game.
Once it dies down a little bit, I'm sure we'll get back more into it. Like once the DLC stops with this, once Dawn Trail kind of slows down a little bit for you
Bison's
guys.
out today. Like it's.
Oh fuck! I forgot Bison's out. Jesus,
I know.
I gotta buy the
I
new season
know.
pass. But yeah, it's good stuff.
So what happens with the summer, man? People,
I know.
you have the big release window now, and then we got one more coming at the end of the year, and
Yeah,
not
no,
a fun
it's-
time to play games.
October's building up for me. You even got Outlaws happening around that time, Star Wars Outlaws, and the more I see of Star Wars Outlaws, the more people are actually talking positively about it. Even though I think it looks like garbage, like it might actually be pretty good. So
Who's
I'll give it a try.
publishing that again? I forget.
Ubisoft.
Ubi.
The other company from EA that wants to put ads in their games by the end of the year.
So here's my problem with it. I don't know if I said
Got
this
it,
on the
got it,
podcast yet. Yeah, stop me if I've already mentioned this, but it should be a Dr. Aphra game. Like Dr. Aphra is a new character they have in Star Wars, mostly comic books, and she's like a smuggler, assessed pirate. You know, she's like a doctor. She like artifacts are like her. Like she's like Indiana Jones essentially.
So she's like
except that
Dr.
evil
Doctor
Indiana Jones.
Jones. She's not a real doctor.
No, she is a real doctor. She has a doctorate. I think it's taken away from her at one point. But no, she's an actual doctor. She
Space
has,
doctorate.
She's space doctorate, yes. And apparently, if you fuck around, you can lose your doctorate. But she get it back later on. But it's this female protagonist, like very snarky and it's like that. Towards like you could have just taken that character that I love and I would love to see in other things and put it in a video game and just make it a little bit different. It would have been perfect for that. But we'll see. I'll give it whatever her name is. I'll give her a chance to as well. And maybe I'll outlove her as well. But it's just, I thought it was a missed opportunity there, to be fair. And I think they're just gonna be like, it's gonna be the whole thing to where it's like, we want to make our own character, and she's gonna be around, when Han Solo's in Carbonite, and she's gonna be dealing with that with Jabba the Hutt, and all these things that you've seen. Yeah, look at that, member berries, member berries, member berries. It's gonna be like, okay, we get it, guys. It's the era.
It is possible. Sorry, I'd be shot at my mouth. It is possible that Dr. Aphra, the rights for it with the Marvel Comics, might not be the same rights that Ubisoft has to make games.
My thought is that Ubisoft doesn't know a whole bunch of characters outside of the movie characters, so they probably wouldn't even thought to bring Dr. Aphra in. Is my guess.
But this is not a movie character, is it? This is a new character.
No, she's not a movie character, but she's in that era that character would have been in, and she's pretty much.
So you're saying they're doing this so they can intersect with those other characters.
That and the fact that they aren't aware of what's happening outside of just Star Wars movies. Maybe they know a little bit about the TV shows because they're probably aware of The Mandalorian and stuff like that because it's very famous or very popular. But outside of that, Dr. Aphra is not super duper popular to the mainstream.
Is this? Are you just saying that gamers don't know about shows? Or are you saying
not gamers? I'm saying
French people don't get Star Wars in France?
I'm saying that maybe most of the people who are developing this game from Ubisoft don't have that much of a grip on things of Star Wars outside of just the general public popularity.
You could just end that, man. People in Ubisoft just don't have a fucking grip. That's it.
Agreed.
Probably true, but there's probably some good people there. Just not higher up.
I'm sure that there's developers at Ubisoft that are great that mean.
Yeah, but the chairman's gonna be like, Dr. Aphra, who the fuck is that? Who cares? I just want someone to start.
Whenever I make fun of that company, it is strictly the people in the business making decisions, and I think they all don't have a fucking grip.
No, they don't. I'm pretty easy. But yeah, continuing on, playing more Nine Souls. This could be one of my favorite games of the year. I know I said it with Helldivers before, but I'm loving the story, the world, everything they're building. The music's phenomenal. The gameplay is fantastic, and it has that Souls-like aesthetic to where you're going to be learning patterns and stuff like that. But I'm not hating it as much playing this game. So I don't know if there's something that's clicking for me because it's 2D. I'm not sure, but it feels really, really good. Now, I did get to a point, and I quit one night towards I was very frustrated. I had these two, they're not even boss characters. It's just some dude sitting there with a fucking sword, and he's got a different pattern of attack, and I just can't get my fingers to do that pattern with the fucking attack. Now, that being said, I could just walk past him. I can just run past him. I could do that. But I feel that I get to that point, I should at least try to defeat an enemy once. If I can defeat him and finish him once, maybe he's hard, and I just say, fuck this, I'm not doing this again, that's fine. But I want to be able to have that satisfaction of, I know I can beat these guys, what's my issue? First off, didn't realize how to use talismans. Talismans is a special ability you get for parrying. I was hitting it, and I thought it was just slowing the guy down for me. Okay, it was in pause for a little bit, get a couple extra hits in. I missed the part of the tutorial where you can press down that button again, and it makes an explosion happen, which takes off a big chunk of health. That is helping me out substantially. I got to a boss that I beat the boss, but it did take me a good long amount of time. It felt very, very good when I did so, but it's this badass looking, robotic, demonic minotaur, and he's in the background. He jumps up, he comes back down on you. I'm fighting him. It's really hard. I've got all my health potions used up, and I defeat him. Fuck yeah, it felt good. First boss in this game that has a phase 2. So I spent off all my health, and I'm like, man, I got that right at the hair. Nope, phase 2. I'm well, I'm definitely gonna die. So we're just getting this, and then after that, I am just taking down phase 1 like it's nobody's fucking business. These are regular NPC. I'm this feels good. Second phase happens. The dude jumps in the back, and he's charging up. It is the exact sound when Goku goes super, or when a Saiyan goes Super Saiyan. That rant, it's the exact same sound effect. I'm oh shit. Jumps back down. He has a whole bunch of different movesets, but it doesn't take as long because the movesets are kind of the same. Took him out, and it was just, God, that felt fucking good. Now, the first time when I had that trouble and I quit that one night, I did notice that there is a difficulty called story mode. And I'm well, I don't want to just give up on it right away. Like I'll still go back, and obviously the next day I came back. I just ran past that one dude, said fuck this, let me see what else we got, and I got to the boss. So I'm feeling still pretty good on it. But if I get to the point where I feel like I'm going to quit this game due to difficulty, I will take it down to story. Story mode takes it to where like it's just substantially less damage, you do more damage, that kind of thing. But all the mechanics are there. So it's not going to change any way on how I played it other than it's just easier. So I'm excited that's there for me because I really, like, just like Elden Ring too, like I love this world and the world that they're making so much that I really want to see this to the end. No matter whether or not, you know, I put it on story mode or put it on normal mode, because you can't go back once you go to story mode. So if you do make the decision, you got to stick with it. And there's achievements, of course, for doing it without story mode. So I kind of want to see how far I can get without doing that. See what my limit break is essentially when it comes to this type of Souls type of game. But so far it's pushed me further than most of those games have. So I'm really excited to see where I get with this game. I'm going to highly recommend it. Once you guys are done with, you know, your 5 months of Final Fantasy XIV DLC, yeah, this is one that I'll probably be, like, when we get towards the end of the year, we all have kind of games where, like, hey, if you get a chance, please go ahead and give this game a try, because I really want to have discussion at Game of the Year. This is going to be that game for me.
Yeah. The nice thing, I mean, Alex and I joke about how bad we're going to be sucked in it, but to be fair, up until we finish the story, we only play with each other anyway.
Yeah.
So there's going to be plenty of time to play other things, either if I'm not available or he's not available.
I know how
so,
you guys do it.
yeah, we have, you know, we can totally.
And the DLC story for
stuff in.
Dawn Trail is not going to be like 100+ hours. You'll be able to take care of it.
Well, don't say all that, because
Yeah.
Endwalker,
We'll see.
Endwalker was a fucking. It was long as fuck. I don't remember how long it took us. It was over a month for sure
Yeah,
for us
it was
to get
long.
through it. And there was a couple 8-hour days that we put in. Like, we woke up, played the story, and just kept going. It's just
Okay.
And this is not just a DLC to like a game. This is a new a new game,
Yeah.
right? A new story. So we'll
Yeah.
see. It may not be that
Final
long.
Fantasy doesn't do that. Yeah.
It's going to be long, but we still, like Christian said, because we do a lot of the stuff together, we still have plenty of time to fit in other stuff as well.
Why you're not playing together, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, the only other game I played was some KOTOR. We are leaving Dantooine now. I finished up the rest of that. We had a nice little fun time with the, not murder mystery, but whodunit kind of thing, to where...
is it Preston let a killer go loose?
Hey, you know what? I found the actual killer. It's just that I didn't ask. You know, once I found out that the other guy was a killer, I'm like, okay, well, case closed, right? We found the killer, we got him. And then the other Jedi, is like, well, actually, you know, it was attempted murder by this other guy too, you know, but it's okay. You know, he'll still be here. I shut down the spaceport. We'll have the other Jedis go and pick him up real quick. But he's like, this is a kind of trial thing. So he's like, make sure you're getting all your information if you're going to make decisions from now on. Since I was a new Jedi, he obviously knew I wasn't going to make the final decision on that. And then we have the whole Romeo and Juliet situation, to where, you know, two families, their kids are in love. One family thinks that the other family killed their son, and then, you know, the other kids are in love together, so one of them has them prisoner, blah, 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 blah. You get through all that. There was a point in time to where, like, both those guys are just old men yelling at each other, telling the kids what to do, but the kids are like, well, we love each other, so they go run off to be in love. And then even Christian said to where it's like, you should just let the old dudes fucking just go at it. Like, just fucking have them kill each other. I'm like, you know what? It was very, very tempting to a certain point. But essentially, I told them to quit being assholes about it and just let the kids do what they want to do. And then they're like, well, we'll tell the Jedi Council what you did. I'm like, go for it. I don't fucking care. I have a feeling they'll be on my side anyways, because you guys are a bunch of assholes coming up in here with your droids.
They were only united in their hatred for you.
Yeah, essentially. Towards the end, yeah. But I felt like I made the right decision based off of my character, so... yeah, KOTOR's good. We are debating either Kashyyyk or Tatooine next. I am gray still, so we could do Tatooine if we wanted to. Otherwise, Kashyyyk is there as well, where the gray Jedi's hanging out. I do like that character, but I also like Tatooine. I'm just going to kind of roll the dice, see how I feel that day when I do it. So yeah, tune in. Testing twitch.tv/testingroompod Sunday mornings, 9:30.
Also, man, that motion blur, son.
Yeah, we put on 4-speed, and because we finally got that, so I can go around a little bit faster. And then I forgot how it blurred the entire screen. And the funny
Turn
part
the
is,
shit off immediately.
yeah, well, I got towards the end of it, and I'm like, I'm going through the settings kind of to see if there was like a way to turn off the motion blur. There wasn't, but I noticed that all the settings were like down to pretty low. I'm like, oh, well, fuck this. Eject up all the settings. I'm like, man, this looks really good. I start walking and it blurs the whole thing. I'm like, oh, well, there goes a nice looking game again. So, yeah, we'll get through it. It's fine. Other than that, I did watch, shows. Acolyte is still all right. Episode 5 was a lot better because it was pretty much just the entire battle. Star Wars battles are cool. Put a bunch of people fight with lightsabers. I'm going to like it. But it doesn't erase what happened on episode 4, which I wasn't a big fan of. So, very curious to hear what Alex says when he finally gets to it. But, we'll save that for when we get there. Well, honestly, Alex, at this point, I would just recommend you wait for it to be all out so that we can go all the way through it.
Yeah, it won't be long. Allie and I talked about starting it after we catch up. Probably not tonight, but tomorrow. We have to watch the latest episode of House of the Dragon.
Yep.
And then we can start doing that.
House of the Dragon's been good as well.
It has. It has.
Shorzy came out with their season 3. They dropped all of that.
I saw
Phenomenal
that.
show again. It's a nice little 6-episode season like they've been doing. Very, very well done. I think the overall arc of that character, who I thought was just a one-off shitty character from Letterkenny, they give him so much character and a fantastic, phenomenal story arc, especially with him and the hockey team. And I'm very curious to see what they do with it, because at the very end it goes, and Letterkenny will be, Shorzy will be gone. No, this is the end of Shorzy, and it goes ... Part 1. So seasons 1 through 3 are part 1 of Shorzy, and part 2 is going to be this whole new thing that he's going to be going on to. So it's great. It's phenomenal. If you like Shorzy, if you like even Letterkenny, you'll love Shorzy. And then let's see, what else am I watching? I started up with Mob Psycho season 3. Finally, it's a good intro. It's a good show. I'm not going to talk too much on it because Christian hasn't seen season 3 yet, but I'm enjoying it. My Hero. God damn, if they can't just get it on with the fucking fights. And they did finally wrap up like one little a pretty big fight in this latest
you're right,
episode.
because every other episode and every other season, they've just got right into the fights and moved on.
I know.
So.
It's just, I think I'm just getting tired of it to where it's like, okay, we're going to do this fight. And it's like, actually, our history with this character. And it goes in this whole like 20-minute thing of like the history of the character. I'm like, dude, I'm just wanting to see the fight. I get it. But you've had 8 or more seasons to build up all this story for me, but now you're just giving me even more. It's like, it's just a little much.
You don't get 40 episodes a season by telling quick stories.
I think it's like 26 or something
shonen,
each
man.
one. I know. I think I'm just starting to get tired of fucking shonen shows. Yeah. Other than that, I did watch one thing because we played our part 3 of Ace Combat 7, and I got the itch again to where it's like, man, I'm playing this. I'm like, I am fucking in the mood for jet fighter shit. Let's fucking do it. So I'm like, okay, let's look up IMDb's top-rated like Air Force or like air combat army like movies. So I'm going through them. Okay, Top Gun and Maverick, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick, obviously at the top. And then you're kind of going through your seasons with some of the ones. Even they even put in like Independence Days in there because there's a lot of jet fighters in that.
Yeah.
You got Hot Shots that's in there. I kind of almost wanted to go watch Hot Shots again because I haven't seen Hot Shots in forever. There was one that was pretty highly rated. It's Flyboys. I didn't watch it because for some reason James Franco on screen no longer like, I don't feel good when I see his face on screen anymore. So I try to avoid his movies. Yeah, he's a bad person. He ruined movies for me now because I can't fucking watch those movies with him in it that I like. So I passed up Flyboys, and then I'm like, okay, well, all these movies are like 1930s and shit, like fighter plane movies. I'm like, I don't want to watch these. This is not the level of fighter pilots I want to see. Rolled up on a 1991 movie called Flight of the Intruder. This is with Danny Glover, Brad Johnson, who you may not recognize the name, but if you see him, you'll recognize the face. There's a lot of characters, a lot of actors in here where you'll recognize the face, but you'll recognize it as a very younger version of guys in there. Ving Rhames is in there, so you got to think 1991 Ving Rhames. He's not a big beefy boy like he was in all the other movies going forward after that, but you recognize the voice when you hear Ving Rhames. So he's in there. William Dafoe's in there, much younger as well. And then it's a Vietnam kind of war movie of a naval bombardier, who's just doing these bullshit missions. Like they're bombing like crossroads because that's where they think like they're like bringing all the resources and supplies to. And he's like, we're bombing all these fucking areas. Like nothing I feel is actually getting done here. And like, the first mission, like he loses like his co-pilot, and then he's just losing like more of his like people in his naval force. And he's like, it's such bullshit. He's like, what are we doing this fucking for? And he's like, we're just sectioned in North Vietnam that we're not allowed to go into. He's like, there gotta be doing something out there. So, you know, him and William Dafoe, who's just like the new like hotshot commander who comes in to join the carrier, if you will. They find out that there's like a silo of SAMs, because the whole thing is like, we fucking hate SAMs. SAMs is the friend killer. So he's like, they're watching this like news report and talking about, oh, these people in Vietnam are so happy, blah blah blah. And you see in the background of this like all these like tips of these missiles. And he's like, look here. He's like, that's where they store their fucking SAM missiles. He's like, if we can get that, so we got a mission nearby. He's like, maybe we take a little detour. Maybe we do the mission really well till we don't use all of our bombs, and we make a run for it. He's like, something worth getting court-martialed for, right? He's like, you're wanting to have for revenge and like, justice for your friends. He's like, this is about the best way we have on it. So rather than unfortunately shooting down and bombing areas where there's mostly farmer casualties and shit like that, he's like, we can actually do something about this war. So they go off, and I'm gonna spoil a fucking 1991 movie. But they go off. It's like this harrowing thing to where like, they go in.
I mean,
like,
you could definitely spoil it because we're probably not going to watch this
I didn't think so.
1991 movie.
So-
We also know how the Vietnam War ends.
Yes.
yeah, that's fair.
But they do this kind of like run. They're going through like this main street. It's their Golden Gate,
A trench run, if you will.
Kind of, yeah. They're like, this is our yellow brick road. He's like, we just got to follow these lights all the way to this main pavilion, and we got to bomb it. They go through. They're having all these bullets getting like thrown at them. Like they're getting hit here and there, and they go to bomb it, and the bombs don't release. So like, fuck. They're flying off. He's like, well, what are we gonna do? Like one of their windows is like blown out and shit, and it's like, what are we fucking gonna do? He's like, well, it's like we're getting court-martialed either way. And they wouldn't expect us to come by for a second run. He's like, so I'm gonna work on whatever fucking doohickey they got in the back of the plane to hopefully get them to release. And he's like, we're gonna do it a second time. He's like, it's worth it. So they go to it, they hit it and everything like that. They go into this whole spiel of them getting court-martialed and like what horrible fucking things, like they're going to prison or they're going to be stationed in some shitty place, like remote place in Alaska for like, 6 years. I'm not going to see anybody. And then like right at the end, the kind of like twist is when they did that bombing run, I forget what country it was, but they pulled out of the, probably was North Korea, but not North Korea, North Vietnam, but they pulled out of the peace negotiations. So that's when Richard Nixon say, fuck it, go after whoever. Like if you find like an important site or important military base out there for North Korea, you take it down. He's like, I'm pissed off that they walked out of peace negotiations, and they came in, they brought in Danny Glover, who's like their main head there, and they're like, we're gonna let them go. We're not gonna worry about the court martial. He's like, what? What do you mean? He's like, I want you to sweep it under the rug. I want you to pretend like it never happened. Like, why? It's because Richard Nixon, our President Nixon, has just now told us to do exactly what these gentlemen just did. And it would look pretty fucking foolish of us if we court-martialed these guys right after the President of the United States told us to do the exact thing that they just did. He's like, so, let them be. And then it's this whole thing to where, like, they save the life of Danny Glover, and so Danny Glover loves him now. He's like, oh, I want to have my own ship now, and you're going to come with me, blah, blah, blah. And then they live happily ever after on a new ship, I guess. But it was an interesting movie. It wasn't a bad movie. I'm glad I didn't pick out a movie that I was having a hard time getting through. It was nice. It was fun seeing like the older kind of special effects that they would have to do for that, and a lot of the actual like planes flying through are not special effects. So you get to see actually these fighters actually fly around and do some cool shit. So it was good. It was a decent movie. I want to say it was a great movie. To be fair, watching anything about the Vietnam War is really fucking depressing. But it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's got a couple decent actors in. Oh, and I put down David Schwimmer shows up for like a whole like 2-minute like scene to where he's like just some like hotshot dude they're talking to. But yeah, it's like 2 years before Friends ever came out. So it's kind of funny to see him. Like, what the fuck? Is like David Schwimmer? Like, I didn't even think he was acting around this time. Like, okay, it's right before Friends. Fair enough. Yeah, that's it. my week. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Comic Headquarters. If you are looking for a trade paperback or hardcover, the guys over at Comic Headquarters can help. Even if they don't have what you're looking for, they'll offer to order it in for you. Visit comichqstl.com today, where you can contact them and order that trade paperback or hardcover that you've been looking for. Or give them a call at 314-433-5449. Let them know that the testing room sent you, and you can get 10% off your order.
Cool.
Then I think that brings us to the game that we all played.
Yeah.
And this is part 3 of our VCBC.
Yeah, it sure is. That acronym never changes. Yeah, we this one will go a little bit quicker just because we had less cutscenes in between missions this time. But that doesn't mean stuff didn't happen. So we'll get there. But we'll go through. So so we pick up mission 11, and we are officially done with the 444 squad, and we are now officially part of Strider Squadron, which is a match against Cyclops Squadron there. So Count goes over to Cyclops Squadron. We become the leader of Strider Squadron, and I put in my notes here, see you later, scumbag 444. Never. I hope you never get other pilots underneath you. You're horrible, horrible people. But so we are our first mission after being taken away from them, and who knows? Hopefully, Bandog gets shot somewhere for killing one of our other pilots. But yeah, so this mission kicks off with we have found out of the enemy grid they're basically using, where as soon as an IFF is detected as not part of that, part of their military, a swarm of drones shows up, murders everybody, and then they leave. And so they've only found a single blind spot where 2 pilots were able to go in and then come back and say like, hey, look, nobody noticed us taking this route. And so we are going to use that blind spot to then try and take out some different bases and naval power they have in that area, to be able to sort of use that as like a forward striking point for some other things that we might do in the area. So we go in, and this one is our first mission. It's basically just a lot of you getting to know your new squad members. So everybody in Strider at first being like, oh, why the fuck does this guy get to be the leader all of a sudden? Like, who the fuck is he? Blah, blah, blah.
I'm a badass, that's why.
Yeah, like, don't fucking forget it, right? And then Count is irritated because he's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, what? I'm not just chopped liver over here. Like, why do I get it? And, Wiseman, the guy that is the head of Cyclops Squadron, is just like, very much like, hey, just stick under my wing, rookie. And, we'll make sure we get you nice, home and safe, you little baby, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, fuck you. Like, they just, little banter.
You've definitely heard what I've done, right? Like,
yeah. So there's a lot of back and forth there, and it's a lot of banter. But this really mission, as you're basically taking out all the different naval stuff and some of the anti-air defenses they have in this area, it's really just a lot of banter. You're just getting to know the new squad and everything like that. And it's one of the missions where you have to hit like a score total, so you just take out a certain amount of enemy forces. As soon as you're done, they go, all right, you did it, come back home. So that one, as soon as we take that one out, we go on to the next mission, which is we are. This one is fucking awesome. So we are starting our plan to take back the space elevator. And to do this, we had some ground forces that were able to infiltrate through the path that we made and get to this site called Stonehenge, which is these not ancient, but they were used in a previous war, but they're basically these giant rail cannon guns that we had a whole site of before, and the Eurasians had taken it over we had people use that blind spot that we created. We were able to get ground troops in.
And Stonehenge was used in the lore to like break up a comet before it.
Yeah,
like,
it was
just
coming
hit
in the
Earth.
atmosphere and it broke up a comet.
Ridiculous.
All it was shooting at, which is fucking awesome. But they, it cuts to the scene that shows these guns, and you're like, oh yeah, those ones, those will do some damage.
That'll do.
That will do. And the plan is to use these guns now that the Ocean forces have broken in and taken control of the Stonehenge facility. The plan is to use the gun to aim it at the Leviathan ship and basically shoot it down out of the sky, the Arsenal bird, to shoot it down out of the sky so that because right now that thing is basically just doing a giant perimeter around the space elevator so that at any point, if anybody was to try, it would unleash its swarm of drones, and then you're screwed, right? So that mission starts off, and this one was the first mission that it really lets you know, like, okay, you're in the back half of the game now. Like, we're gonna have you juggle some more responsibilities here, and we're gonna have you, you're gonna be going back and forth, right? So this mission is you're basically protecting that main cannon and protecting the team that's inside it until it has a chance to fire. So there's a lot of ground forces that you're trying to take care of. There's also bombers that are coming in and trying to bomb that area. So you're taking them out. And lo and behold, something goes wrong, because it always has to. The Leviathan, or the Arsenal bird, shows up and is like, all right, well, fine, fuck it. If you're trying, and it unleashes its swarm of drones. And it seems like it's going to be a little bit too little too late, because the sight vehicle is basically lined up and ready to go, that they use basically for its, the targeting for this gun. And everyone's like, yeah, I mean, this thing's about ready to fire. Like, we're going to be good to go here. And the problem then is that during this section, one of the drones is able to take out the sight vehicle, and everyone goes like, hey, this, it's time to evac. We got to get out of here. And one of the people does what is just, it's so cool. And I wish, this game's about flying airplanes, so there's nothing you can do about it. But I wish that this would be, in any other game, this would be a moment where you're like the Star Wars, like the Force Unleashed moment, where you're using you're doing a bunch of different controls and doing things to like bring down the Star Destroyer. Similarly, you would be doing a bunch of crazy shit to be able to line the shot. There's basically one hero basically goes, no, fuck this. I'll aim it with my eyes. Like I'll manually line up this shot. And everyone's like, Are you sure? And he's like, what other choice do we have? Like, we either leave or I try to shoot this thing and we do this thing.
Spent all that time charging it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, my man, that's what I'm talking about. So he's like, it's moving way too fast, though. I'm not going to be able to keep up with it. It's like, all right, new plan. You got to take out its main propeller so that it slows down. And if you do that, I can get the shot lined up and we can take this thing. Now, I know you guys are playing on a different difficulty than I am. So I don't know how this was on your guys' end. This one, my plane finished this mission at a gentleman's 96% damage. I had basically a stray machine gun bullet would have taken me down, because there was just so many drones, and you basically have 3 minutes to shoot down these propellers, and that's it. Otherwise, it's it will have left the area and you're screwed.
If it makes you feel any better, I died the first time because I did get overwhelmed. I didn't have a lot of health going into it. The second time I finished it 98%. Yeah.
It's a doozy. But so we're taking out the propellers here. It slows down, and that fucking super awesome dude goes, I got it. And then boom, and the shot goes off and just shoots the Arsenal bird in half, and everybody cheers, and it's really, really cool. And it was one of those moments where I was like, yep, that's going to be one of those ones that everybody remembers as far as that mission is concerned. So it was that was awesome. So the next mission opens up with a scene of the Princess of Eurasia watching one of her speeches. I have down here that it seems like she's like bummed. Like, she doesn't seem very happy about what's happening. And then that's it. It cuts immediately away to the briefing. And they were like, hey, so with that Arsenal bird, we have now, we've taken back half the country. So we're fucking putting pedal to the metal here. Like, we're getting after it. So the next thing is we are making a counteroffensive on their ICBM, like, missile silos that they have placed everywhere. And normally they would wait until clearer skies for, like, these stealth bombers just to be, like, way up high and just drop these things and do this thing. But obviously this being, a counteroffensive and us have just now gaining this ground, we have to make up time. So they're like, we don't have a choice. We got to go now. You guys are going to sight these fucking things from inside your plane so that the bomber can send the targeted, like, laser-guided bombs basically directly to where they need to go. And they even show during the briefing of, like, you basically having to keep the missile silo in your sights the entire time, just, like, circling around the target.
Did you guys have to do the circling at all?
I did not know.
No, I didn't have to do
it was-
circling either.
I couldn't. I don't know when you say, like, I didn't have to. I physically couldn't. Like, whenever I would do the circle, my thing would just, like, move, like, way too far off. Like, I had to come in straight.
Yeah, so it is. I think that it was just how. I think that's how the briefing is doing it, assuming
Sure.
that your co-pilot is the one who's getting the getting the laser thing for it. So I think it's just how the briefing was saying it. But yes, you are aiming this in and getting it to drop and go right. So there's only 5 missile silos that you're looking for. However, the problem becomes is what the enemy has decided to do is paint on the ground a bunch of fake ones. So there's only one way to find out. You either get the bomb right the first time and it won't matter if it's fake or real. You'll just, it'll be erased off the map. Or if you do if you do like a real close run, your co-pilot can look up the side and figure out and go, hey, no, never mind. It's a painted one. Keep moving and move on to another one. Which I did have happen twice. I was able to remove 2 fakes off the map because I flew in real close trying to get a shot. And as soon as I flew in real close, they were like, hey, take a look. That's a fake one. Move on. And you're like, all right, sweet. So, but that one goes, and as soon as you take all 5, there was hidden missile silos that people did not know about. They shoot off these missiles, and the mission very quickly becomes, we have to shoot these missiles down before they reach critical altitude because we'll be screwed. And so there's 3 missiles that are on different parts of the map, and you have to, as you're taking one down, another one will go off, and you have to race over there and get it and things like that. But yeah, so you shoot those missiles down, and everyone's like, attaboy, everything's cool. We go on to the next one. So the next one is we are now in the beginning stages. Now that we've taken out all of these defenses and we are on our way to take back the capital, take the capital of Eurasia. And how we're doing that is going around the corner or going around the side and grabbing one of their forward Air Force bases out in Cape Rainy. And spelled just like the weather, by the way. I thought it was really funny. Like, there wasn't like a spell, it's just rain. Like, just Cape
Must rain
Cape
there all
Rainy.
the time, yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I wouldn't be surprised if that's just how easy they came up with the name. But, so this one is, I loved the beginning part of this mission because it was one of my favorite, another stealth one.
This is probably my
Where-
favorite mission so far in the entire game.
You are having, it's very cinematic for sure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you're having this lead up where you're basically, like, it's like, so you can't go above 600 altitude. So you're basically going to have to stay in these trenches and go through this whole thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We did that kind of before. It's like, it's just an upgraded version of that radar one. Except what happens when you get in is you start seeing spotlights and helicopters that are all monitoring this gorge because somebody over there knows that they have people that are absolutely capable of flying through this gorge. And so they're like, we have to, be monitoring it. And it really felt, I was like, man, this is like if you were playing like a Metal Gear Solid or like a Splinter Cell. Like, this is one of those classic sneaking missions, except you are in a fucking jet fighter.
Yeah, much cooler.
And you are just... Now, I'll be interested, and we'll talk about it after we get through the story part, right? When we get into the mechanical parts of it. But for for me, because I'm using the classic flight controls, like I have to like, pitch, turn, and then like curve around some of these corners and do these things. So I know you guys, when the way you're controlling is like when you just go left, like your plane just goes left. So I'll be interested to see how that worked out for you guys. But yeah, there was some times where, oh man, if my cockpit was open, I could have reached out and grabbed some souvenir rocks and fucking put them back in. It was scraping. But we get through, and boom, surprise, we are at this Air Force base, and this Air Force base has no fucking clue about us being there, and we are just, they're like, hey, fucking get after it, start taking these targets down. So you start taking them down, your ground forces show up, and I have a note in here, they keep calling him the Pizza Man.
Yeah.
And they even, when we finish this, so as you knock out all these targets, and you're basically, after you take out all of the main anti-air targets, you start taking down targets that are just giving the ground forces problems. So you're just like taking them down to allow their basically push through into the base. And they even say, it's right at the very end, I don't know if you guys caught this, but they say right at the very end, nobody resists and nobody dies, like surrender, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. We're not here to kill anybody, like we're taking the Air Force Base over, and oh yeah, we got pizza. And I'm like,
yeah.
and the entire time I'm saying, like, it is still unclear to me on whether or not they actually had pizza. Like, I don't know what.
No, man, I think he does, because he said, like, essentially, he was like, according to the Geneva Convention, whatever they have in this real fake universe, or what, fake real. He was like, yeah, according to that, we got pizza for everybody. I took it as legit.
That's what it felt like, but he was just like, we're not gonna, like, we'll treat you according to prisoner of war, like, we're not gonna do anything, crazy or whatever. And then he's like, oh yeah, we got pizza. I'm like, but do you? It's not, because they keep calling him the pizza guy. I don't know. Either way, thought it was very funny. But you did that mission. I loved, and I know. Again, we'll talk everybody's feelings afterwards with all the mechanic stuff. But yes, the approach and everything about this mission was very cool. And then we hit the final mission of this, which leads into obviously our last part when that's what we'll do next week. But this is mission 15, so we are 5 missions away. We're very close, so everything's starting to sort of come to a head here. So we launch an assault from Cape Rainy, and this is it. We are taking Farbanti. We are taking the capital of Eurasia. And so we are going through, and there is multiple different assaults happening from different angles. This is another mission where they sort of give you an option, like, hey, there's 2 things that we need to go do. You fly over in one direction, we'll take the other ones, right? Like you can leave stuff up to basically Cyclops Squadron while you take the other one to go do something else. And everything is just going well. There's zero issues are happening, more or less. And I was like, well, something's, things have been going too smoothly for old Oshia pretty soon. Like, I feel it's, and as you get through, who shows up but Mr. X. Oh, I will say too, also, this mission opens with a scene from the Eurasian perspective, and it's that scientist again, and he's basically talking about all the tests and things that they're putting Mihai through to gather data and do all these things, and he's finding out more things about him. And he basically, throughout all these tests, he ends up developing a flight suit that would allow him to just really go like at 100%, right? Like, nothing will basically be holding him back. And he calls out that his granddaughters are visibly upset when they give him this new suit. It's because they clearly know, just like everybody else does, that if this dude goes for as far as he can go, that's probably going to be the end of him. Like, his body will just eventually give out. And they even say, like, the human body is not meant to be just absorbing all of the radiation that comes from being that high in the atmosphere all the time and everything like that, right? But yeah, so as this mission goes on, everything's going a little too smooth, and so who shows up but Mihai himself? People they keep calling him Mr. X. We, the player, know his name, but nobody else does. But he shows up, and he shows up with his new squad of people that have been training under him, and they also can fly. They're not as good as him, but they can hold their own. So I don't know about you guys. You can do this mission a couple different ways, but I killed all of them first before getting after Mihai, even though everybody says, "Hey, fuck all! Like, just go after him."
I did the same, but only because in my head canon that was more cinematic.
I
thought so
didn't
too.
realize he was there until
Yeah.
I got to that area section. So like I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, because I must have missed the part that said that he's already there. So I'm just taking it off.
Well,
I'm like,
he
okay,
flies in. Like, it's a whole scene. Like, he comes in.
okay, no, as soon as
after
he comes
you,
in,
yeah.
I'm going after him.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, so they're all there, and you know you're going through them, and basically nobody can get a lead on him. It's this whole thing. He's been alive, and so Cyclops 1 shows up, and not shows up. But he says, "Look, man, I'm just gonna play bait, and you try to get a shot in on him, like, you know, while we're doing that." And you know, he's chasing him around and doing these things, and Count is basically asking the entire time, like, "Yo, let me get at him with Strider. Like, you don't do this. Like, me and Trigger can go after him. We fought him before. Like, just you don't need to do this." And he's like, "No, it's me. I'm the commander. That, like, you know, you stay back and do the other things that you're supposed to do." So Count gets pissed off at that, but obviously he follows the order. And in this crazy dogfight that happens, he kills Cyclops 1, and not only kills him, it's not just like he shot him down, kills him. His plane completely exploded. There was no chance for ejection. And so Count becomes the new leader of Cyclops Squadron, and he is absolutely upset. But they make him new leader. He has the whole, you know, everybody form up on him. He goes, "Look, our only shot is to let Trigger handle this, and we have to provide support in any way that we can. But, you know, that's all we can do." So then it becomes another one-on-one situation, and man, as you're fighting him and you get him down a little bit, and I don't know if you guys. So I knew something was happening where as you're fighting him, you can start to see like your radar glitches out a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Something on some screen starts to flash. As soon as you hit him past his damage limit, and you get a good hit on, they're like, "All right, he's only got one hit left in him. Like, finish it. Let's shoot him down. Let's be done." And then everybody's radar completely, like all electronics, completely go down. Not only that, but only local communication is working. They have lost all communication to the outside, and then Mihai leaves. He evacuates during that time, and everyone's like, "All right, look, he's leaving. We all need to leave too. Like, we have to land and figure out what's going on." And Count's like, "Fuck that. Like, I've got payback to get." And they're like, we understand what you're talking about, but we literally can't talk to command. We can't do anything. Like, we need to figure out what's going on." So we land at base, and then that with the emergency, and everybody has made emergency landings at different places that, you know, we've taken throughout this battle, and that is where we end.
The real cool part about that last section, though, too, is that, like, I think they must hit like a satellite, because like right at the end of that level, they're like, "Oh, you see that now out the back? Like, it looks like a star," but like you look in the distance, like it's right near the sun. If you look in that area, you see like a little kind of like, not like fiery explosion, but like, I don't know what you would call it. It looks like there's pieces that are kind of like just like bright pieces.
So it's all these different things
Yeah.
entering in the atmosphere. So what it is,
Sure, we'll find out
Well, you
what
would-
that is, but I'm assuming
Yes.
it's a communication satellite or something very important for us that got shot.
That
down,
is,
exploded.
it is revealed later, but yes, I know what it is because my son played. But yes, it is. I won't say it, but yes, we do find out. But that is a keep that tucked
Keep that
away
little
because
peek.
that is a thing that is a relevant detail later. But yeah, that is where we end. So we have an emergency landing. We took the capital, like we won, but it wasn't out without some costs. So there's that. But so that is all the story. So let's go through mechanically what, like, just gameplay, where everybody's at, how everybody's feeling. So like I said, I'll end. So you guys go ahead.
So, the first the first two missions were the last missions I used with my old plane.
Okay.
And then, which were good. The missions were good, right? The third mission where we were protecting the guns, or was that the second one?
Second one is where you're
Okay.
protecting Stonehenge.
I liked that. I liked all the missions. The missions continue to be good. The flying continues to feel fantastic. I continue to play this game in the cockpit where I can see it, right? And I did fine. Like, the thing with this game is I've cracked the code, in my opinion, of, like, how I need to play. So, like, I ride the brake a lot, right? Like, when I was flying behind the big bird, like, I was riding the brake behind it, and I was just like about at same speed, just like pop, 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 pop on the propellers.
You ever accidentally stall and all of a sudden your plane goes, and just loses all forward momentum?
I've done it on purpose a couple of times to get out of some of those drones rockets,
Okay.
some of the drones missiles. When I get locked on, even if there's a bunch of them, like, you turn and air brake and you're still locked on, or you get loose and they lock on immediately after. There's been a couple times where I figured out if you stall on purpose and drop straight down and then keep going, like, you'll lose it for a minute.
Okay.
So I've done it. But that's what I mean. Like, I've gotten to the point where I got to know this game now. So, like,
Yeah.
whenever I'm flying across Stonehenge and they're like, oh, there's more planes coming at me, I'll go, like, a wide angle, and I'll just gotta hit the brake and, like, let them just barely pass me. As soon as they do, it's just like lock, kill, lock, kill, lock, kill. So it felt good, but that was the last two missions I've used with the Tomcat. The next missions, I've gotten the next to last plane.
Yeah.
Like 870. And dude, once I did that with all the upgrades that I have, game over. Like, I am so fast in the sky now that, like, there were a couple of those missions where it was just like take out as much as you can take, and there was one of them where between the ground and the air and, like, you're blowing stuff up, and like the ships, I think I ended up, that was the ship one where you could take out all the, like, ships as well as attack the city.
Yeah.
Those platforms.
I took out 143 different enemies. Like, because my
Yeah.
plane is, like, so fast and I just know the gameplay now. So it feels super good. And then you continue on to the canyon mission, which is just a straight canyon run. And, like, I have never felt better in an action game almost. Like, I was hauling ass in this plane with, like, tight maneuvers. But then as soon as I came out and they said guns ready, it felt like a movie. Like, I just came in and I caught everybody unaware. I took out 90% of everything on the ground before they scrambled planes. And, like, the first two planes they scrambled, I was strafing back through, took out both of them, and turned around. They're like, helicopters coming in. I'm like, man, this feels so good. So yeah, I really like it. I'm interested to see what's going, like, where the story's going with Mihai, and then of course the princess or whatever, because you're right, like, she was watching the TV, she didn't seem happy, but she's putting on this weird, like, happy face to the world, and it's just, there's clearly something going on there, something nefarious. So it'll be interesting to see, like, how they're going to wrap this up in 5 story missions of, like, what's going on. So the story is cool. We'll see where it goes, but man, the gameplay, like, if I'm saving the money to buy that last plane, but right now, like, I don't even know why I need it. This damn thing's so quick and maneuverable. Like, it feels great. So, and I'm having fun playing in the cockpit. It's just real goofy. And that canyon one, it was pretty nuts. Yeah, because there were a couple ones where you're, like, air
Do you
braking
get
around
some sort of,
turns.
like, geographical readout while you're in the cockpit where you can kind of see where the twists and turns are going to be, or is it all just field of view?
I zoom out. I zoom out on my radar. So, like, I hit the select button on Steam Deck or whatever to give me the one further zoom. And the only time I needed it, there were 2 turns. There's a left-hand turn and then a hard right bank at the end, where if I didn't have that, I may have crashed. But because I knew it was coming, I was able to slow down and air brake around those 2. But otherwise, it was great. It felt good. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is definitely my favorite part so far. Yeah, enjoyed the first couple missions. They're kind of like a little bit slower. I liked, at first I didn't know what I was kind of getting into as far as that first mission is concerned. So I failed that one once, and then I'm like, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to do this better. And then I realized that all of those, like, water bases or whatever they are, they all have those cores attached to them. So if you found the core and you took that out, it took out that entire section of the base. So like, oh, okay, this is going to be much easier. So go through that. The second one with the missile silos, I was just hitting up every single one of those missile silos. I don't think I got close enough to find out if they're painted or not. I was just painting them and then destroying whatever was there.
I got lucky on that one. The first 3 I hit were all right, and then I went through 2 that were fake, and then I hit the last one.
Did you?
So
No,
I didn't have to do all of them, but I hit almost all of them.
I hit every single one because I didn't get close enough to see the painted ones. So it was still, it was pretty straightforward. I just went through all of it. It didn't take too long. Did fine with those missiles going up. Then the third one, so that'd be 11, 12, 13. 13 was the Stonehenge one. That one I had a little bit of trouble with. So I knew what I was doing, but for some reason, that last bomber section just made it. And I didn't know what my issue was, so I'm like, fuck this. As much as it's an obnoxious UI, like I'm just putting that big radar on the entire time, and I'm keeping an eye on it. As soon as I see those triangles come in, I am headed that way. So I finally got into the last section. And then I don't know how close you guys get to the propellers, but you go for after those propellers, and I'm just sitting there trying to shoot with missiles, and there's just drones just getting in your way and just trying to get in it. And I'm like, okay, well, the best way to do this is just lay it in with a machine gun because they can't sit there the entire fucking time. So I laid the machine gun, shooting my shit when I could, and then finally got those down towards the last minute. I was doing pretty good on my health, to be fair.
Chris, I was doing this weird thing where like I was holding the A button for machine gun, right? So that I would have to bring my
Cycling
finger out,
secondary.
and I was just like trying to hit the missile at the same time. I was holding machine gun down with my like goofy claw hands. So.
Yeah. Now for this one, I did get rid of my electromagnetic launcher. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
So
I
I went for more of like the air to ground because I knew we'd have a lot of tanks and stuff like that, and some anti-air that would be down there. So I used that a little bit more. Got a new plane for that one as well. And that's the one I kind of stuck with towards the end. As far as the planes, I kind of kicking myself in the ass for kind of going back and forth at the top and the bottom. So I kind of sticking towards the bottom now because there's a plane I want to get to, and I will get to it before the end of the game. But I don't think I'll get to the very end of the tree by the time the game ends. But the one plane I want to get to, I think it looks really cool. I'm going to get to that one before we get there. It kind of looks like that newer drone to where it has like an odd angled wing towards it. That's the one I'm kind of going for right now. Mission 14 is probably my favorite mission in the whole entire game so far. Just doing that kind of like run through the bottom is very Top Gun Maverick. What they had to do at the very end of that last mission. But you're going through there. I'm like, okay, it's kind of fun going through here. It's nice. And then those watchtowers popped up. I'm like, okay, you got to get through 1 or 2 of them. And all of a sudden, towards the end, there's like 8 all in one section. And you have to thread the needle on this one. Felt so fucking cool when you make it through. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can get right there. Like, okay, I gotta speed up a little bit because I don't know if that motherfucker's going to come down on me all of a sudden. I get to there, and the last few turns were pretty tight, but I got through it pretty fine. Mission failed, I think, once on that second half, but luckily they do checkpoint right after that trench run. So got through that just fine.
This game's good about checkpoints.
Yeah, but yes. So for the Stonehenge one, if you fuck up on that last bombing run, you gotta go through that whole front section of all those bombing runs all over again. That one kind of didn't I'm more than really mad about it, but like more like I gotta do this all over again. I had to do it twice, and it was that last bombing run.
It's only like 3 minutes, but yeah.
It felt longer. It wasn't bad though. Like it wasn't like a bad way of feeling longer. It felt longer. I had to go through it. And then the last mission, it's very cool. Again, old man is just fucking pissing me off with how fast he can fucking turn. And I got to a point where I was behind him, and he tried to pull that fucking move in the cutscene off on me. I see him just kind of ip up a little bit. I'm like, no. I kind of steer away. I'm like, I'm not letting you pull this one on me, old man. Like, you're not fucking playing this.
Dude, because I had that new plane, like that fight, he had nothing. Like he was trying.
I did not.
It was
have
almost like the
mobility.
opposite. Like he was trying to get away from me. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, my
it's
mobility
on
was
now.
not good enough to help out with that. Like I just like, maybe want to go back to the other one. Who knows? But I got through it just fine. It just took a little longer than I expected. Did any of you guys like survey and see the buildings? Like after you take down him, they kind of do that one thing to where it's like they chit chat a little bit. Nothing's in the air. There's nothing really to target even. But if you go by, that entire city is fucked. Like that's post-apocalyptic looking shit to where like chunks of buildings, all the windows are blown out and shit. Like
Half
it was
of it's
looked
flooded.
rough.
Like
half it's flooded in there. Yeah,
there's one of it where the boats are like in between some buildings, right? Like it's
Yeah, and that's the one to where I got the cluster bombs. So
Yeah.
To where like you press the secondary and it kind of angles you down just a little bit so you can kind of see where you're going to be aiming at, and then it shows like where all those bombs will hit. Now, most of the time I'm going for a bombing run. I'm pretty close to the ground, not close to the ground, but close enough to where when you get up higher with those, does that spread get larger, or is it still going to hit like the same area and still be the same effect?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm always low to the ground. So.
Yeah, the issue I was having is that like you get like 2, maybe 3 things that are right there next to each other, but for the most part, you're not getting a swath of things. Like I kind of wish I had that for that first mission, to where you had those like stations that were like all those guns were and everything like that. I'm like, man, if I just dropped a bomb on one of those things, that'd be fucking fantastic.
I brought a different missile to that one. There was on my route that I'm taking through the plane tree. There is a missiles that it's like 4 air to ground missiles that target like 4 ground targets all at once. I was using that one for that mission.
My plane has both of those. So it has the 4 ground ones and it has the cluster ones. So I took the 4 ground ones to that trench run. So that trench run where like the tanks and stuff like that, anything that was a ground unit got fucked immediately with those 4 ground missions.
Yeah.
It's just fun because you let it go and it goes off and it's like, tag all it's 4. I'm okay, just going to wait for it to reload. And as soon as that thing reloads and gets fresh, drop it again.
And you're like, all right, see ya.
Those feel fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's funny because we're playing a little different. Like for me, my plane is super fast, a lot of agility, but what I've done is I don't like the view when it switches down to the air to ground. So I've gotten both. What
does yours do for that? Is it a completely different angle?
So,
because your cockpit.
Yeah, it does. It gives you like a downward angle. It's really weird, like almost like straight down. So what I've done is I literally just like have ultra fast missile reload and extra carry capacity.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like when I'm flying low, it's just like YB, right? So like Y target, B shoots like YB. And you see my target like beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Fire and missiles like crazy. Just because I don't want to deal with the other stuff.
Like the first like part 1 / like halfway through part 2, I thought you had to stay locked on to those guys. So I wasn't doing like the like let it go, cycle. I was like, I let it go, and I'm like waiting for it to kill it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, once I got like partly through the second part, I'm like, oh, you can just let it rip, and then as long as you were locked on, then move on and start hitting something else, and it felt so much better.
Yep.
It's like it does depend. Like if they have a high maneuverability, if it just
Planes
turns
are
red
one thing,
and you
yeah.
shoot, I say if it turns red and you shoot, you'll hit them like 50% of the time. But if you wait till it does the circle lock, you'll hit them almost every time. But yeah, if you're like,
well, the circle lock is saying that you're in range for your machine guns.
Oh, is that what that is?
Now it can help.
Interesting.
But
I thought that helped with the other.
If they're like flying past you or going at an angle hard, like you still won't hit them. But yeah, if you line it up just right, and if you're like going past them or something, they're not doing crazy maneuvers. As long as you get that circle on them, it will most likely hit them. But if they're doing,
which is why, because you're so close that your machine guns hit, which makes sense that you're hitting them 100% of the time after that. Because if you send a missile from machine gun distance, then they're
most of the time you're good. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. It's been a phenomenal run. Like I said, number 14 was just fantastic, phenomenal, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I'll add that you guys need to say was, or that because you guys went, but I'm just very happy that you guys are super enjoying it because man, this game has moments, dude. It's just there's something about it. It does. Mm-hmm. It's a very special franchise, and it's awesome that this one is.
It makes me feel good, like Armored Core made me feel cool.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of same
for sure.
feeling. Yeah.
Yep, and the only other thing that I forgot to mention during the story is there's one banter that I forgot to bring up that I thought was funny. In the first mission, when you're getting introduced to your new squadron, somebody on Strider Squadron goes, "Hey, Trigger, what is up with the 3 lines that is on your plane?" And Count goes, "Those are called sin lines." And they're like, "What the hell is a sin line?" He goes, and then Count immediately realizes what he said afterwards, and he goes, "Actually, don't worry about those. Don't ask about that again." And everyone's like, "Okay," and it's like really weird. It's like, yeah, you should probably not bring up the fact that I killed Harding. Let's just that I killed Harding. Let's just move on. But yeah, I just thought that one was funny. But yeah, no, going back through this game, it's just one of those. It just. Every single time I play an Ace Combat game, I always go, God damn, this series is so good. But then more specifically, this one especially is just very special. It's a good one.
Very well.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, these next 5 missions, these last 5 missions, I should say, they don't let up on. It is bombastic moment after bombastic moment. So I'm very, very excited to finish this. But yeah, with that, man, that's it. So we have one more part left. When we meet again, not only will Dawn Trail be out, but we'll have finished Ace Combat 7, and we will be on to Alex's
I'm gonna
game.
have to finish Ace Combat 7 like tomorrow. So just because
Oh, yeah,
early
it's your
access.
time.
That's fair.
Yeah, we'll be to Alex's game, which is going to be the 20th anniversary of Beyond Good and Evil. Can't wait to play that
we're
again.
gonna go back to it. Yeah.
The HD remake. No, we are not.
I'll watch a playthrough. You can play it.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for hanging out with us, everybody. I get to leave here a second and go cuddle my dog because we are a week out from July 4th, and some asshole decided just to start letting off big booms for
Yep.
no reason.
I
It's not
could
even
tell.
a week. It's not even a weekend.
I could tell the second that I saw your face, like you leaned out and looked, and then you started shaking your head. I said, I already know what time it is.
Yep.
So irritated.
I love it.
I hate everyone. I
Yeah,
hate
me too.
everyone.
Me too.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's
Anyway.
fine.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Can't wait to talk to you next week and finish up this game. It's a good one. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
Hit it.
Yeah, I'm in that
Thank you
get
for
dressed
listening
up
to
real
another
pretty.
episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.